Okay.
All right.
Before we move to Andrew, I had hit to stop recording when you said we were going to break, and it takes about a minute to stop, and then you guys kept talking. So the public didn't get to hear everything that you said at the end. So I would like to revisit it. Also, if the public wants the recording, it was on the recording, just not live. So I believe the last thing that they heard was when you were asking about the,
Solar ordinance reopening?
yeah, and like put a moratorium on it.
Yeah.
So if you guys can talk about that again, please, then the public that's live can hear that and on the logistics of how all that goes down.
Okay, and I apologize. That was
That's all right.
we just didn't stop when we said we'd stop.
That's all right.
But anyway, yeah, I'd like to do a moratorium and to put everything on hold till we revisit that, or able to revisit the ordinance.
I'm going to start today with Chris Gaumer. I'll talk to him about the ordinance, and then I probably, if I have time today, I'll get a hold of Randy Rampolla, who's our bond counsel. And even though this is a different thing, I still have the relationship with him that I can do that. And I'll get, if I get any answers before the Thanksgiving weekend, I'll shoot all of you an email.
Okay.
If not, it'll be next week.
Yeah, and if you'd like, I can reach out to Rick Hall too to see if he's going
Sorry.
If you'd like, I can reach out to Rick Hall too.
Yeah.
To see
Why
if he's
don't
got
you? And let me know what Rick has, because he's got more experience in that area than what Randy does.
Yeah.
Randy's strictly bond issues and
Yeah,
things of that nature.
He's done, he said, 20-some solar projects, so,
Yeah, I would appreciate that.
sure.
So what you
Not
had
too proud to listen.
So what you had said before is that both Bill and Mike, you guys are putting together some amendments that you're wanting to see, and you're going to send it to Chris,
To the Plan Commission.
to Plan Commission.
Right.
So that procedure is, you're welcome. Well, let me just start at the beginning. You can't just reopen a UDO up for reconsideration from square one. It has to be, the procedure is that either a Plan Commission member or commissioner has to sponsor specific amendments. Those go to the Plan Commission for consideration. Plan Commission either makes a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation for each one of the amendments. And then those come back to the commissioners for a final vote. The legislative body, of course, always has the final say. And also as part of that conversation, I asked Jim to look into the advisability of trying to do a moratorium at this stage. This is a completely different situation than when we did a moratorium a year ago and had no projects in the works. And I just want to make sure that if we do that, we're not leaving the county open to a legal challenge because of the situation we're in now with activity from development plans. So I think that pretty well summarizes it.
I believe so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
You're
one
welcome.
thing that I think I push hard in my discussions, at least with Randy, and that is that the application's not considered
Right.
submitted until all of the accompanying things have been
Right,
submitted.
yeah.
Now, maybe they have been, in which case I'll change my preliminary opinion,
Yeah,
but,
I don't think so.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good then.
Yes, thank
You're
you.
happy.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, that's no problem. All right, Andrew, you are up. What you got today for us?
Actually, Andrew Provines, 3920 County Road 75, Butler, Indiana. So I'm actually, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and forfeit some of my time here. I'll still sign in and everything. But I'd like to forfeit some of my time. Mr. Larry Williams over here is not really part of the Stop Solar DeKalb, but he reached out to us last week just to ask us some questions about this. He doesn't even live near the solar farms that are going, that have been proposed, but he had some concerns financially for the
Okay,
county, so I thought I'd let him use the time to talk.
that would be fine.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Larry Williams. I live at 2418 Woodland Trail, south of Auburn. And I appreciate you letting me have this time today. I learned about the solar issue just last week, actually, and was found it quite interesting, of course. I have a background, and I won't go into a lot of detail, in banking, in manufacturing, finance, and in federal government finance and information technology consulting. I've worked in Europe. I've worked for a French company. So let me share with you some information I've gleaned from newspapers on the internet, and also some questions I have about EDF in particular. So let me start. This goes back. On July 6, 2022, French Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne addressed the National Assembly of France. Quote, "I confirm to you today the intention of the state of France to hold 100% of EDF's capital. MPs, the ministers of the French Parliament, welcomed the announcement with thunderous applause. PM Borne also said, succeeding in the energy transition means controlling it, referring to nuclear being controllable instead of the intermittent nature of renewable energy sources." And this is from the article. The news article goes on to explain that EDF, of which the state, France, has formerly held an 84% stake in, now will rise to 100%. PM Borne made another notable comment saying that the public money should be better used to switch to clean mobility rather than subsidizing fossil fuels for a long time. A question I ask is, whose public money is the French Prime Minister referring to? Should tax abatement cost savings from DeKalb County, Indiana, be included in her definition of public money? Remember that the French Prime Minister is speaking about the nationalization of EDF. Okay, then fast forward, if you will, to Friday, November 18th, last week. Reuters reported on a European news site, quote, that AMF was likely to give its approval for the state, France's offer for the other 16% of EDF capital that it does not already own after its meeting on November 22nd, tomorrow. Okay, so who is the AMF and why are they approving France's acquisition of all EDF shares? The AMF is the French agency who are responsible for regulating financial markets. Our equivalent agency is the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC. So approval is expected tomorrow, Tuesday of this week, for EDF to be 100% owned by the French government. And finally, Reuters reports the operation is meant to help the debt-laden group contend with caps on power prices and an unprecedented slump in output from its nuclear plants because of technical problems. So, in conclusion, I want to ask, will EDF Renewables consolidate their DeKalb County financial results with EDF of France? If they do consolidate, are the DeKalb County Commissioners and members of the DeKalb County Council in a position to advocate for and approve the tax abatements to EDF Renewables that may ultimately benefit the public monies of the French Republic? That's basically my question. I wanted to share this information and ask you if you were in fact aware of that. And one more comment. I saw this morning that President Xi of China on Tuesday, I believe it was Tuesday of last week, it was a report November 14th from a Japanese news site, said that China and France should expand two-way trade and investment and maintain the stability and smooth functioning of global industrial and supply chains, as well as tap the potential for cooperation in such areas as green energy and technological innovation, according to the state-run China Central Television. So he said that in comments that he made to the G20 in the meeting in Indonesia last week. So this is a hot topic. In fact, there, and I can't give you the exact details. I got the articles. There is the Southeast Asian countries. A number of them are pushing for the relief of tax tariffs on solar equipment. That decision is due to be made by the Department of Commerce, I believe, by December 1st. So this is a hot topic internationally, and it affects us here, in my opinion, because should we forego or should we grant a tax abatement? I've done several tax abatement requests in Indiana. They were always designed to create jobs. I've done them in multiple counties. And so the new process was something new to me. I've never seen the form you went through, the checklist. And I understand, I understand the nature of that. Not to digress too much, but I ran into problems when we were investing millions of dollars in various places to bring in robotic equipment. I understand the dilemma, for finance, and I understand the nature of investment, but I really do believe that tax abatement should be strongly considered to be a tool for job creation, if anything. That's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good info.
Was it nothing to say though? No response.
That's a lot of data at once.
That is a lot of data at
would
once.
need to be verified, and who knows.
Yep.
I would just say briefly, number one, it's the county council is the governing body on tax abatements. We have no say on that. I mean, we can certainly make recommendations. And you're correct. I've been working on those kind of things for going on 20 years. And jobs had historically always been the main function or requirement for a tax abatement. That has shifted dramatically in the last several years because of robotics and a lot of other efficiencies in manufacturing. Okay, so jobs are not as big a factor in granting a tax abatements as they used to be. That being said, it's important, and with the solar, and I've talked to a number of county commissioners around the state. The EDA agreements are meant to compensate for that lack of job creation. In terms of foreign ownership, and I don't want to oversimplify this because there are some other issues that you brought up, but I'd also point out that Cooper and what used to be Tower Automotive are both foreign-owned.
Let me interrupt. There's a difference.
Mike.
Let me interrupt there, Mike. There is a difference between private foreign ownership and public foreign ownership.
I understand that.
I'm talking about 100% nationalization.
I understand. And that's why
Would
I
you
said
advocate for a utility from the Republic of China or from Cuba to be to build a solar farm in DeKalb County?
I guess I would have second thoughts about a communist country. France is not a communist country.
Close to.
Sorry.
I agree. France is not a communist country, but I can get you the percentage breakdown of how many of the left and the right in France who are socialists, who are communists, who are globalist or pro-development, et cetera. I can help you with that.
I'd have a problem with any foreign country having control over our energy policy or physically. It's just not a good idea. We've seen what this has brought with all this world trade, and we're always on the short end of it.
Yeah,
And this would be no different. We'd end up on the short end of this deal.
to your point, and I think, Mike, you've been down by Muncie, Randolph County. I don't know if you've been there or not, but there's a company called EDP who is Spanish, but they're a privately held company. So I'm making a distinction here.
Well, I understand
Yeah,
that distinction very well.
Okay.
That's why I said that there was a little difference in.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. But there is a precedent for foreign-owned companies to get tax abatements in DeKalb County. Companies, exactly, yeah.
Also, I mean, I kind of a little bit of control of foreign government over our land too, not just energy. I mean, they're leasing / buying land.
Food production comes to mind very prominently is because in order to control the public, all they have to do is control the food production.
Agreed. And the U.S. has really never been dependent on any foreign nation for food production. So
No.
hundreds of millions of acres being taken out of production across the country with projections of needing 70% more food by 2050 as Farm Bureau Federation put out. And that's a lot. It's definitely a lot.
Yeah. Just a little side note before you go on.
Yeah.
John Stossel had a good article in the Saturday, Sunday paper, worth reading. Yeah.
Who was it?
John Stossel in the Star.
He's always good.
Yeah.
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 Yep, definitely check it out.
Check that out.
I have a question based on what you had just said about the commissioners not having any say in any of these abatements. So you guys don't have, I mean, the commissioners don't really have control over the abatements.
Right.
None. We have influence maybe, but no control.
Right. Do you have to like approve them ultimately, or it just goes right through?
Nope.
Okay.
It's all on the council.
And I don't want this to seem strange, but I mean, personally, you have a little bit of control, Mike, right? Because you were at the committee meeting for the abatements. So you have some control. I mean, you were there scoring the sheet with them.
I don't have any control at all. I may have some input,
Okay, you have input.
But that's all.
Okay.
He's not on the committee.
No, I'm just
Okay,
checking.
I just
He was
wanted to
there.
clarify.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
That he's not on the committee.
But you're also part of the planning committee, the liaison for the commissioners to the planning committee. So you've got kind of like the zoning portion. You've got a little input into the county council committee on abatements. And you're the president of the Economic Development Commission. So also the economic development stuff. Am I missing any other? You're part of a lot of these committees. How do you find the time?
I make time for important things.
Okay.
I would note that the Economic Development Commission is not considering anything to do with solar at all, so.
I'm just pointing out it seems like your hands are in a lot of pieces of the pie in general. I'm just calling it to know.
Been that way for many years.
That's fine. That's fine. I am glad you guys brought up the ordinance again, just because every time I read through the ordinance, I think more and more things, and I have an email sitting at home waiting to go to all three of you because we had talked about thoughts on ordinance. So that's sitting in my email, ready to hit send. I just wanted to get where you were at mostly, Mike, because you said you had some ideas. I didn't know if you wanted to share any or...
No.
No? Okay.
I will when I have a intelligible document ready
Gotcha.
to present or to sponsor, I will.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Some other thoughts on the ordinance, and I'm asking on behalf of other people here. So, Mr. Hoover had asked about fire plans long ago, and he was talking to one of the guys, Meeks from Homeland Security, about that.
Yeah.
And Mike, you had said you would reach out to him and see where he was at on that because of the lack of being able to get a fire truck through if we were blocked by trains, like in our project specifically over on the east side. Like the far east side, there's no way to get fire trucks to us. Did you get any information back from Homeland Security on that?
No, other than there will be we call them Knox boxes, which are required on all commercial buildings. So on the solar facilities, they'll have a box where the fire department can access the premises, and all of the fire departments will have the training to throw the correct switch to disconnect the solar field from the inverter.
Basically shutting them all off at once.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest issue with any kind of fire situation in a solar field is the inverter on a commercial field. The inverters are all on big concrete pads with gravel all surrounding them. So, once the field's disconnected when the DC power gets disconnected from what converts it to AC, then there's no danger to go in and fight fires.
Right. You can actually fight it at that point. Yep. He had wanted me to ask about, because he had put in some notes on like suppression systems. Since a fire truck might not be able to get to us if there was a fire, don't get me wrong. That's, is it likely? No, but could it happen? Yes.
Yeah.
He was just wondering about his suggestions he had put in for fire suppression, like actual suppression systems on all the solar panels so that if a fire did break out, it would try to take care of it.
I don't know.
Not yet.
I don't know that it's even available, let alone practical.
Okay. I mean, it's available. He had put it in his thoughts to Homeland Security, so it is available.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
but practical.
Yeah, I'll touch base with Jason. I don't know if he's not made any comments
Okay.
regarding that to me anyway.
Yep. He just wanted me to ask because he hadn't heard back from him after
You know,
talking to him
and I
originally.
think from a practical standpoint, Andrew, the situation of whether you can get a fire truck in or not is no more applicable to the solar field than it would be to a field of bean stubble that, had somebody threw a cigarette out or something. I mean, that's...
I agree. And it's actually, so thinking about that further, even outside of solar, I think it's a little bit crazy that it is kind of, you can't get a fire department in there if something's going on.
That's
And it's a
definitely,
general concern.
that's definitely a concerning thing. I mean, it's the same situation with EMS and so forth
Yeah.
too. So, that's,
Yep.
it's definitely, it's caused issues more than one time.
Yep. And it's definitely a concern outside of solar alone. So
Mike, what did you call that box thing?
Knox box, KNOX.
that's the part that actually allows them entry. But the thing is called something else, right? Where they flip everything off. I mean, it's basically a switch. They have like a master.
It's just a big shut-off.
Yep.
master
Disconnect.
I'm picturing like a big red handle.
Yeah.
Pull down.
Yeah.
The Knox box is a little box
Well, it's
mounted
key.
on the buildings that the fire departments have a master key to, and inside that box is the key to the premises.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just had a thought about fire. You drive up around the wildlife reserve around Mongo, they have fire stop strips, cultivated strips around.
yeah.
I've never seen that at night. How do they work?
But it's
just a fire break.
It's fire break, and they cultivate it. They
Yeah.
keep the vegetation down. They till it every so often.
Yep.
Is that
The,
something that would maybe be a benefit around these?
Well, my understanding is that the development plans for the solar fields include gravel fire breaks regularly throughout the
It does include that.
project. Yeah, that's all part of the development plan.
And the perimeter also. I
Yeah,
would assume.
there's all
Other-
around the
yeah.
perimeters.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. That's definitely helpful.
Yeah.
So, really the last thing I have, as far as today goes is, the whole ordinance. I mean, I don't understand why it can't be opened, but that's something I can ask, later or if we have more time. I do want to point out, and I actually brought these today. They're just, so this is new. Solar to this scale is new. I mean, there's not a lot around the country that's been around for 30 years, or we have a lot of really good things on, but already a lot of these things are, see a lot more articles recently as to, hey, solar farms in Alabama, Idaho, Illinois ordered to pay a total of $1.3 million in environmental violations. So early on in this, it was said that basically that these horror stories just don't happen. They're not real, but they are. And they're starting to come out where different solar companies are not doing the things they said they do. There are environmental concerns. They're literally paying to fix their environmental problems that they caused. Or we have Consumers Energy seeks crippling wind farm tax clawbacks. So basically, they gave money to these, counties. Michigan changed the way they do taxes. So now these companies they're losing money. So they're suing these counties to get the money that they gave to them back. So just some things to consider.
And I want to correct something you said. I think the comment was not that these things don't happen. What I said was that you never hear about the projects that go smoothly and there's never a problem or no problems with. You hear the horror stories, but I think the smooth projects from my conversations with commissioners around the state of Indiana are that many more of them run smoothly. Now, I won't say that they haven't had to go back and crack some knuckles with a ruler and so forth occasionally, but for the most part, the conversations I've had is that the solar companies and the wind companies, because most of these counties have both, have been good corporate citizens and have played by the rules that they're supposed to. There's always a chance that somebody goes off the rails. Mistakes get made, and
I will definitely go back and find that segment just to be sure. But my concern is that I just want to make sure it doesn't happen here. That's my concern because a lot of these companies are tiny little LLCs, and there's a reason that these big companies make these little LLCs that they can just cut off. They can get rid of. If you actually start going and looking at a lot of little solar companies, they've already dissolved. So they make these tiny little companies, and if something happens or something goes wrong, they dissolve them. They get rid of them. Why do you think? As we start looking, I'm actually kind of interested when we start even getting more and more different things rolling in about companies doing things like this, because at what point do you say, oh, that's interesting, this company is actually owned by EDF, or this company is actually owned by BP Lightsource. So they had an issue here, but they're also applying here for a different LLC. If you start going and looking, little solar LLCs, a lot of them have already been dissolved. They just keep getting rid of them when things happen. So that's my concern. And I've voiced it many, many times in these meetings is how can we protect ourselves and what can we do against them? And the slap on the knuckles, I agree. Like, how do we effectively do that? How do we effectively, you know what I mean? So that's my concern.
I absolutely agree with you. I think, that those protections are critical to, if these projects move forward, they have to be done according to the rules, Yep. We have to follow all of those rules as we go through the permitting process. And once the permits are issued, we have to make sure that all those rules are followed during the construction process. One of the ways we're going to do that is, and I've just something that Jim and I have been working on as a memorandum of understanding. We're going to require that the solar companies fund a inspection and enforcement program because the way we're staffed now, we don't have a building inspector that can go out and ride herd on a regular basis to make sure the construction's done the way it's supposed to be. So we're going to require that the solar companies will fund that job position so that we have somebody on site on a very frequent basis to make sure that all of those requirements that are contained in the permits get taken care of. So that's just one of the things that we're doing. The same way with requiring 115% of the decommissioning cost up front, so that if that little LLC dissolves, we've got the money already set aside to pull all those panels out and return the property to its original condition.
Yep.
So,
and that's a worst case that they're obviously right. It's worst case that they're completely gone, but it's the little things like that where, hey, we did screw up some water. Hey, we did mess up, and making sure that doesn't happen because safety, health of all our residents. So, last thing, we're still working on numbers. We're starting to make some headway with that is here's how much we're losing to our community as a whole, both in, fuel supply, fertilizer, seeds, mechanics, cost of equipment on average per year per farmer, that kind of thing. So we are still working on those. Just as if you wanted to round it off to a number, what represents a job? Is it 35K, 40K, 45K? Whatever represents a job, we're working on getting those, because with making what they say is 2 to 4 jobs, which a lot of places say that's not true because it's all done remotely. But even if that were true, how many jobs we would stand to lose by the farmland being put out of commission. So just things we're working on, keep you guys up to date. So.
And again, I appreciate what you're trying to say with that. But again, if you take, 3.5%, 4% of the tillable farmland out, you're only going to affect 3.5% or 4%. If these farmers who don't have a succession plan and kids to take over their farm sell to a housing developer or a factory or a trucking company or somebody else and take that land out of the agriculture economy, it's going to have the same effect. So,
But every one you just mentioned creates jobs. Well, except for obviously, it does create jobs to an extent. But the housing, apparently we're kind of at a housing shortage. So
we have a
in the whole
severe
scheme of
housing
things,
shortage.
that would be a good use of some land.
Yeah.
But all the other things you just mentioned, create jobs. I mean, actual physical jobs here, and bring people to the county.
And they spend money in the county.
Yeah, and spend money in the county. Yep.
And even with the robotics, somebody has to build and maintain the robotics.
Yep.
And those are highly skilled, highly paid jobs.
Yes. Correct. Yep. So just more thoughts. I appreciate your guys' time, like I do every week. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay.
Every time I steal your pen. Sorry.
We have a,
you
we
get
have a
used to
running
it. You get
account
the hang.
going for you. Yeah, we'll send you a bill.
All right, everyone. That's the end of the list. Anything else? Anybody? Any comments, questions, complaints? Now's the time.
Jim,
I never complain.
will you get an updated, or we're gonna wait for Mike to talk about the lighting for the ordinance on the buggies, and then we can put together a final.
Yeah, I want your input on what I've got, and I didn't do the lighting because I didn't have a clue where we
No,
were
that's
going
fine.
with it.
So we need to work on that. I'd really like to
Yeah.
nail this down and vote on it next week if possible.
After I
first.
meet with Mr. Zare this afternoon, I'll get an email out probably very early morning
Okay.
again, and just
Good.
let you know what I thought of that. And, I had a thought the other day that I sent maybe just to Bill. I don't know if I sent it to everybody about a tweak. So, we can discuss that and move it forward.
You said we need another public hearing on that bucket ordinance.
Why do we need another public hearing?
Because the last public hearing was not on the ordinance in its final form. We have to have all of the fees and fines defined in the ordinance and then have a public hearing.
Okay, so let's get the ordinance written, then have a public hearing, and let's get it voted, because we're gonna run out of year here.
We'll have to do 3 readings on that.
Yes.
So, okay, don't you do the first reading and then
Have the public hearing.
then have the public hearing? Okay.
Then you can do the second
Yeah.
and third reading at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we may be, 2 weeks out on the public hearing?
As long, depending when all this stuff comes through, so that I have time to advertise it. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's going to depend on if you vote on it next Monday.
Well, and if we want to get it in effect at the first year, we've got to have time to order whatever it is we're going to give everybody who registers.
Right.
Whether it's a sticker or a plate or whatever.
Or that'd be a plate first year.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I guess we could give you a cardboard and crayons and
Well, we
I'll
could do.
start drawing.
But
put Garrett.
That's the reason we can't go ahead and order the plates.
Right.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I mean, we're going to have something. in
I
place.
can now, since I didn't because you guys hadn't, and I mean, I can,
Yeah,
I'll get something done.
Okay.
go ahead and order the plates.
Make them pretty.
Don't worry.
I don't think we need I don't know, any ideas on the plates or just wing it, Susan? It's just a plain plate with, we don't need anything.
No.
No. Okay. So let's, we need to figure on, well, we got another month after next week. We'll go 3 weeks on the public hearing. That gives us enough time.
That would be, 1, 2, so that would be the 14th of December, or no, 12th of December. Then.
Does that work, or we want to go sooner than that?
We need to go sooner than that.
Well, are we, it's going to for sure be here for Monday? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So I'll just advertise it for the 5th.
5th?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that'd be better.
We should
I
be able to
agree.
get it then. We should be fixed up by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's make it
For the
happen.
first reading.
We'll make it happen. Anything else?
I have nothing else.
Okay, last call. And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. First read, yes. Right. That's the plan.
All right.